Reddit, have you ever come across a post by someone else that was about you? What was it? Sort of. I saw a post asking for ideas for a fairly narrow research paper assignment, because she needed to turn in her term paper topic to her professor the next day. My husband was teaching a class on that exact topic, with that assignment due the next day. So I suggested something I knew he would be really interested in. He came home the next day all excited that one of his students had picked that topic. This is actually super cute and a double win. Did you ever tell him? Yes, I showed him the screenshot after the semester ended. He thought it was great. I ran across an ex posting about how we met, and when someone commented, "You should marry him," she responded, "I plan to." It sent my heart exploding, to think someone could even jokingly say something like that about me. Well, it was a joke, because she dumped me for her ex a week later. I'm sorry. It's all good now. Looking back, she was definitely not the one for me, and since then I have met someone who is. I was dating an alcoholic, and when he fell off the wagon, I spent a lot of time reading alcoholic subs to try and better understand how to help him. And I found some posts he made about talking to me and how to explain his disease to me, since I grew up with alcoholics, and it deeply affected me. People kept telling him we wouldn't make it or that I must have really low self-esteem, but he said I was smart and cute and had a once-in-a-lifetime soul, and I wasn't the type of person you gave up. I found it well after the fact, but my heart basically exploded. Wow. It feels good to know that under what seems to be a lost soul is still a person who would give everything to be with you. Alcoholism is such shit. I once met a guy at a bar. We exchanged numbers and were going to go on a date before I Googled him and found out that he and his mom were being charged with beating a woman who was feeding stray cats. I told my coworker this story and showed her the insane surveillance video. She shared the story on a thread where Aziz Ansari was asking if people ever do research before their dates, and he included my story in his book Modern Romance. So that was pretty cool. Edit. No, I didn't go on the date. Also, dude and his mom tried to convince the woman that they beat unconscious that she just fell. She didn't even know she was beaten until she saw the surveillance video. I would have gone on the date and waited until he asked, "What hobbies do you have?" to say, "I like feeding stray cats," just to see his reaction. A couple months ago, I got a screenshot from a friend saying someone was posting awful things about me on their blog. I was never mentioned by name, but it referenced a lot of identifiers that made it plain to see it was me. Went to the blog and there were several entries that were just about why and how much she hates me, can't figure out why anyone would want to be around me, and a recurring theme that I'm copying her. What makes it a bit weird is that I've only met her once at a party, but there's such vitriol. I have to admit, it does bug me. I'd love to say it rolls off my back, but the part of me that's struggled in making friends and trusting people just feels so insecure when I'm reminded of it. I had a rival at school. I didn't know she was my rival, but when we graduated she came to me and said, "You always competed with me and were always trying to outshine me, but now you will be out of my life for good." She wasn't even in my class or friend group, so I'm not sure when was specifically talking about. I wonder whether I accidentally bullied her. My fiancé at the time came across a post of mine wanting advice about our sex life and the disparity in drives and whatnot. I was wondering if we should just break up because it was veering into dead bedroom territory, and I knew I couldn't survive a sexless marriage. I went to bed and woke up later to a crash and him crying, which was heartbreaking. He found my post and threw his keyboard against the wall. We had a tear-filled talk and then tried to go back to sleep. In the morning I found his post with his side. There was some stuff in there that he had never told me, about his health, body image, depression, etc. It really helped spur some very tough conversations. But now we're married, so it seems to have worked out. Still not a perfect sex life for either of us, but we are both committed to trying, so I'm happy with it. I was in the very worst days of my anorexia and depression, and had dropped to below 34 kilograms. I'm a 172 centimeters male, and was going to the gym to ride on a stationary bicycle every day for about 64 kilometers. I was often either very stoned or on several 5-hour energy shots every morning I was there. I came across a post on a sub from someone who worked at the gym, asking for advice about whether she should do something about the skeletal guy that comes in every day because he looks like he is dying. Some comments were really quite disgusting. People saying I was probably just image obsessed and insisting that anorexics are narcissistic and vain. Truth be told, I was just kind of waiting to die at that point and completely checked out of life, living on 100 to 500 calories a day. And when I found the post, I got in my car and impulsively drove down the highway on a full tank of gasoline without a purpose, then ran out of gas and slept in my car at a truck stop. I stumbled upon a post about how the girl I was seeing was doubtful that she loved me and missed her ex. I should have honestly seen this as the sign that it was, but I let myself fall in love with her, and ultimately ended up heartbroken. Someone made up a story about me stealing their husband and posted it on those type of sites, stole a picture from my Facebook profile and posted it. To this day I have no idea who did it. That person must have known me but didn't know where I live, since it was posted with a town that is 6 hours away from where I actually live. I immediately told my husband about it, and thankfully he did not believe it, but somehow someone found it at work and everyone was talking about it. Even the VP called me to ask me about it. It was embarrassing. The post still lives. There's nothing I can do for them to take it down, but at least I got one to remove my picture. I made a post asking for advice about one of our roommates not having a job and worried about how to pay for rent. We ended up talking to him, and he got a job. Everything was cool. At the end of the convo he goes, "And stop posting about me on Reddit," in a playful way, haha. I had this terrible roommate. He made me so uncomfortable that I mostly hid in my room. He crossed my boundaries, invaded my privacy, and was passive-aggressive. I finally gave my notice and started packing. He posted a cheesy questionnaire on Facebook, and one of the questions was, "What are you most looking forward to?" He put, "My horrible roommate moving out." A bunch of people I don't know, who must have assumed his roommate couldn't see, starting offering vague supportive comments like, "Oh yeah, bad roommates are the worst," or, "Hope they leave soon." It bothered me most because, first of all, the only thing I ever did to him was not want to date him and put in my notice, but also the fact that our mutual friends could see it, and so could I, which is just rude. I decided to comment and I said, "I'm sure your supportive friends, who don't know the situation at all, are unaware that you are being this rude where I and our mutual friends can see it. You aren't a perfect roommate either, but at least I treat you with enough respect to not badmouth you so openly. If you're going to be purposeful cruel and try to humiliate me, I'll have to unfriend you so I don't have to see it." Shortly after posting, he deleted the whole thread. A few years ago I was browsing a thread called Forever Alone, and there was a post that said something like, "I have a date on Monday, so I guess I'll be seeing you guys on Tuesday," along with a bunch of crass jokes about his date, and how he was planning on knocking her up. Didn't take me long to realize that this was the very same guy I had a date with on Monday, so I commented about how I would see him in a few days, at which point he texted my number to verify that it was actually me. We laughed it off and I still went on the date with him. He was pretty fun and it went fairly well, other than his constant awkward jokes about how I was so perfect for him and how badly he wanted to get me pregnant. We hadn't even kissed and I was maybe 18 and he was in his mid to late 20s, so it was extra uncomfortable and I didn't know how to respond. We talked a little while after and never actually ended up making plans for another date, partially because logistics and partially because his endless comments about impregnating me were really starting to weird me out. A few months later I ran into him commenting about our date and how it didn't go anywhere, but I was too young and immature for him anyways. My cousin posted about how his family makes fun of him for playing video games and collecting Legos since he's in his mid-20s. He has a job, buys his own shit. He went on to say 2 family members, without fail, poorly sneak through his room every Thanksgiving so they can buy him a Lego set he doesn't already have for Christmas. Apparently my husband and I are not as smooth as we thought. There was a story I read about a girl walking home late on a foggy night, seeing someone who she thought was pretty odd walking towards her, as I remember described, angrily, and she explained debating crossing the street but continued forward. When they crossed paths she said hello, and after a significant pause when they were already a few steps apart, and she heard a faint little, "Hey," which she also found odd. That guy was me. I actually was just very drunk, a little high and cold, walking briskly towards my house, which was a few miles away from the party I was at that evening. I remember seeing a silhouette of someone coming through the fog and getting a little scared myself, followed by relief that it was a woman, then instantly followed with the realization that my drunk ass is probably frightening the shit out of her, which lead to panic to get the situation over with as quickly as possible. I do even remember thinking at the time of responding to the story, but somehow the concept of, "Hey, I think I'm the guy that weirded you out, how neat is that?" didn't seem worth the neat to even weirder ratio. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.